Hello and welcome to a new episode on Sadhana World Foundation. As you know, we care about crafting young lives. We present them stories drawn from our lessons in history and our folk tales, which are anchored on moral values. We think that these lessons contain tremendous amount of teachings which our young children and adults can inculcate in their lives and become stronger and better human beings. Often we think about situations where someone asks for help. A beggar comes to us asking for alms and we contribute. We feel good about it. We think that that's charity. Should you pay money? Should you give your time? Should you help someone? And all of this, is it an act of charity? And if you do any such act, how do you take credit for it? These are questions, these are ideas which are under debate for a long time. I came across a beautiful story. I thought that story has a lot of teachings for all of us. Let me describe that. Once upon a time, there was a farmer who had a daughter. They used to lead a very simple and modest life in a village. The farmer every day will go to his farm, he will spend his time, he will give his efforts, best efforts possible to cultivate something in the farm and get something which just feeds the two of them. They were obviously poor or had a very modest living. The daughter started growing and was attaining the age of marriage. The farmer didn't have money to organize the wedding and to give something as a gift to the daughter in the wedding. The farmer thought that he should approach the king for help. He went to the king's palace. On his way, he had to cross a long distance, he had to cross a forest. The farmer's daughter had cooked some food for him, and he was carrying that food which would be enough for him for the distance that he has to cover. It was a long distance that he had to cover from his village to the king's court. While he was passing through this jungle, he came across a dog who was looking like starving. The dog came near him and almost started begging for food. The farmer thought that he doesn't have enough for his survival, yet he offered some to the dog. Then after some time, he came across a beggar on the way who was looking for some food. The beggar said, "I am starving, can you help?" The farmer said, "I am poor, I am carrying some food for myself, let me share some with you." The farmer was left with just very little, possibly was not enough for his own survival. However, he continued his journey. He reached the king's palace. The king asked him about his case. Why should the king help him? The farmer said, "I am poor, I do my best efforts every day, yet I do not have enough money to get my daughter married. Can you help?" The king said, "All right, you are the citizen of my kingdom, I would help. However, I need a proof that you are a good person. What have you done which can be considered as noble? And I want to test the nobleness of your claims." The farmer said, "I am poor, what noble work I can do? All that I can think of is that I was coming to meet you from my home. My daughter had prepared some food. I shared a part of the food with a dog who looked to be starving and a beggar who seemed to be starving and looked poorer than me. The king said, okay, so let's weigh the food left with you and balance the weight of the leftover food with gold coins. And whatever number of gold coins it comes to, they will be yours. So the king's court, they organized a balance where the leftover food was weighed against the gold coins. But something surprising happened there. They were putting more and more gold coins, yet the very small little amount of food which was left with the farmer was still weighing heavier. The king was surprised. The king asked the farmer if he has some magical power to make that small little food heavier. But the farmer said, Majesty, I have no such powers. I do not really know. Then the king asked his courtiers. His chief minister stood up and said that, Your Majesty, the farmer has done such a noble act of charity that it is beyond the weight of the gold coins. The king said, Explain us how that charity is so important. Then the minister says that, Your Majesty, the gold coins that you are giving away don't really make any material impact on your wealth. But the farmer gave away the food which had direct impact on his survival, on his ability to come from his village to this court. Yet he thought that he must do that act of charity. So his act of charity is great. His act of charity is intensely noble. While you are giving away some gold coins, which is the wealth of this people of this country, and don't really make a huge impact on the treasury that we have. The king understood, and the king took care of the farmer's daughter's marriage and gifted him with those gold coins. It's a folk tale, tremendous amount of teachings in it. It guides us to the direction of charity. It tells us why charity is important and what is real charity. The meaning of real charity is when you give away something which creates a significant difference to you. You give your time, you give your money, which doesn't really matter so much for you, is not charity. Is not good enough charity. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which is a compilation of 700 verses where Lord Sri Krishna leaves this amount of teachings and guidance for the entire human civilization. In chapter number 16, he describes 26 noble qualities. One of those noble qualities, the fourth noble quality that he talks about, is Dhanam, which is charity. He further explains in chapter number 17 that this charity, which is given to the right person at the right time and of the right attitude, the right intention, it is not to take credit, not to feel great that I have something and I am giving it away. That's not charity. You take credit for what you give away is not charity. What is real charity? Real charity is when you give away something which has a material impact on your possession, and it creates a positive impact on the person who is receiving it. That's charity. Charity is not about publishing the benevolence of the giver. Ladies and gentlemen, very intense teachings. I felt that story has got tremendous amount of impact on all of us. if we adopt them in our lives. I look forward to our future conversations. Thank you very much.